This is a story that will touch your heart, as it has touched the hearts of thousands of people around the world with this account. Take a moment to reflect on whether money really is everything in life. Leave a like now to help the growth of the channel, and watch the video until the end to understand the whole story. Here on the Special Stories channel, the children of an elderly lady did not have much success in life and lived in the shadow of what the family had built. When they learned that their mother had passed away, they rushed to her house in search of the inheritance, but what they found in the late lady's room would turn their lives upside down. Helena went to the window and, when she opened the curtains, saw that winter had really arrived. There was so much snow outside that the sidewalks and the entire backyard were covered in white. The children will have a lot of fun, she thought, after admiring the landscape. The lady then made herself a cup of tea and waited for Rosa's arrival. Rosa visited almost every morning and was her only friend. They had known each other for many years and had a lot of respect and affection for one another. But these two women were not just connected by their friendship. At that time, the lady was not a frail old woman like she was now. She was married to a man she loved, and together, they managed to cultivate a huge variety of foods on a farm. The couple was excited about the production and became very successful entrepreneurs. A testament to the quality of their work was that demand for their fruits and vegetables increased every month, with orders being sent to all regions of the country. After several years in this exhausting and demanding line of work, which requires daily attention to the crops and soil quality, the Smith couple turned their farm adventure into a prosperous business that employed hundreds of people in the community. Over the years, the couple became true professionals in the field, gaining regional prominence. Unfortunately, Peter passed away, leaving his beloved wife a widow just a few days before their 40th wedding anniversary. During their long marriage, Peter and Helena were happy together. They not only built a successful agricultural business, but also had three beautiful children: Roni, Ryan, and Raquel. Only Ryan followed in his parents' footsteps and dedicated himself professionally to agriculture. Raquel, for example, showed more interest in beauty salons and shopping from an early age. However, her interest in these areas was not always professional. She simply cared excessively about her appearance and bought new clothes and accessories whenever possible. Her true passion was tourism and long trips around the world. It was an expensive passion, but she believed it was worth every penny invested. Although he had the example of his successful parents, it's worth noting that Ryan didn't have much success as the head of an agricultural company. If it weren't for the help of Sebastian, a faithful farm manager, it's almost certain that Ryan would have failed the business that his parents had left for him to run. It's been 3 years since Mrs. Helena retired. She was tired and at an advanced age, and no longer had the physical ability to handle the hard work of the farm. Now, she lived a solitary life in a huge house that had been built when Peter was still alive. For someone who had managed a farm, taking care of the house was not a big challenge. Even at her age, she never had to ask for help from her children, preferring not to bother them. She thought that they went so long without calling or visiting her because they were too busy with their own important tasks and lives. Helena didn't mind, even though she felt a little sad and lonely sometimes. After all, she had fought hard in life to achieve the success she had on the farm. She knew that now it was time for her children to struggle to build something, and she wouldn't in any way hinder that. Just then, a loud knock on the door interrupted Helena's thoughts about her melancholic past and life. She smiled and went to the door to see Rosa standing on the porch. It was a friend she had been expecting for some time, but Helena understood why she was late. There was a lot of snow on the streets and sidewalks that morning. The elderly woman hurried to the kitchen to get a cup of tea for Rosa, who was already coming in right behind her. They sat down and began to talk, as they usually did. They talked about the weather, how the forecast said the snow would last for another 3 consecutive days. Without waiting for Helena to ask, Rosa immediately made it clear that the children at the orphanage were very happy. The two women were occupied playing in the snow, making snowmen and sledging. However, what the elderly woman really wanted to know was about cirrhosis. She just dropped by to say hi or to see if she needed any money. Rosa didn't feign surprise. She knew how Helena's mind worked. It wasn't quick and perceptive, and there was no way to hide anything from her old friend. So she said that it was necessary to buy fresh fruit juice for the orphanage children. After all, winter had arrived, and they needed vitamins to avoid the flu. But she assured Helena that they would soon be rewarded for their efforts. Helena didn't know that she could count on her friend in case something bad happened or if the worst-case scenario took place. All of this was said by the elderly woman with a latent sadness in her voice. Rosa understood perfectly what she wanted to say, lowered her eyes, and touched her friend's hand. She couldn't do much to change the situation, but she showed her support and affection. But on that cold morning, Rosa decided not to stay silent and speak up for the first time. She said that she understood what Helena was going through and that it wasn't her business. However, it was clear to her that the attitude or lack of action of Helena's children was a huge mistake. "But what can I do, my friend?" said the lady in response, after a long sigh. "I don't want things to be like this, but my children are adults and have their own lives to lead." The orphanage administrator opened a mysterious smile and approached her friend, saying that it was still possible to awaken the consciousness of the 13 and put them on the right track, but for that, she would have to take action. Mrs. Smith wanted to know what her trusted friend had in mind to help her in this situation. She explained her idea meticulously, and as she spoke, the expressions on the elderly woman's face transformed, displaying various types of emotions, one after another. In the end, Mrs. Smith found the idea to be a good one and that it might even work, and then changed the subject, not speaking again about what would happen next. Even Rosa was not prepared. The next morning, Helena Smith woke up feeling very ill. She felt a strange burning sensation in her left breast and wanted to ask for help but couldn't even reach the phone. Every time she stretched her arm, the burning sensation increased. Even with her trembling hand and voice choked with suffering, the elderly woman managed to call an ambulance before falling unconscious on the floor of her room. The rescue was quick, and the paramedics entered the woman's house on the second floor. If it weren't for the agility of these professionals, she might not have survived. After stabilizing the woman and analyzing the tests, the doctor said that she was not a lucky woman. She had a heart attack and could have died. In that room, not even the agility of the rescue team could have been enough to save her. Once out of danger, the woman listened to the doctor's words calmly and closed her eyes to rest a little longer. Upon hearing about her friend Rosa's heart attack episode, she immediately notified her 3 children by phone. However, Rosa's fears were confirmed. No one went to the hospital to visit the woman. Ronnie was busy with urgent business in another state of the country, and A was in the midst of a divorce process. She was content to know that it had only been a scare, apparently. Raquel was enjoying the music festival during those days and would not arrive until the following weekend since she was in Europe, and it was not clear whether it was a professional commitment or just another of her whimsical trips. 2 days after the accident, Rosa called all the children again and announced that Mrs. Helena had unfortunately passed away due to a heart attack. The 3 children arrived home in Kansas within a few hours. After they gathered and talked about trivial daily matters and their mother's heart attack, the children wanted to know what would happen to their deceased mother's estate. The fact is that they were very used to receiving financial help from their mother, and a minor concern took over them as they tried to figure out what would happen now. They all lived their lives largely supported by the family business's income, and without this source of income, it was as if they no longer knew how to lead their lives or support their desires and luxuries. Even the employee was worried and wanted to know what his job situation would be since he had been Mrs. Helena's right-hand man on the farm for so long and now did not know if he would continue in the position when the children took over the business. In the living room, there was a nervous atmosphere, and it seemed that they had lost the ability to communicate for the first time in many years. They didn't seem like the same siblings who were raised together on the farm. The worst part of it all was noticing that they didn't seem to be sad about their mother's death. It wasn't possible to observe a single tear coming out of their eyes, nor could one see any swollen face from crying in that house. It was as if some random person had died, someone they cared little about, making it increasingly clear the true reason that brought them there. When they began discussing the family's financial future, each calling attention to the other as if they were trying to deceive each other. The lawyer was organizing papers to start reading the will. It became clear to her that her 3 children were not calm and didn't seem like the children of Mrs. Helena anymore. Now they were a group of heirs lusting after the money of a woman who had just passed away and wasn't even buried yet. Rosa lost patience and called everyone's attention, saying that if they wanted, they could say goodbye to Helena, their mother, before the funeral. Her body was waiting in the room next door. That was when the 3 children exchanged strange glances with each other, without saying a word. They pushed Sebastian forward, as none of them knew how to deal with the situation and felt intimidated as if they were afraid of the deceased mother. They didn't suspect that the surprise of life was just beginning for all of them. The farm manager opened the door and entered, taking short steps. The room's lighting was initially very low, making it difficult for Sebastian's eyes to distinguish the contour of the body lying on the bed. The man felt the first tears coming and took a folded handkerchief from his pocket. But before he had time to wipe the first drop, a calm voice broke the room's silence. "You've always been sentimental, Sebastian. Don't be afraid, come closer and give me a hug." The manager closed the door, and as he turned his head back to the room, he saw the woman sitting on the edge of the bed with an affectionate and maternal look that Sebastian wasn't confused about. He wanted to know what all of it meant if she hadn't died. She would have heard the whole discussion. Sebastian even stuttered as the elderly woman confirmed that she had indeed heard everything. She said she didn't think it was exactly right what she had done, but that she needed to be sure of some things before her time on this earth truly ran out. She said that Sebastian didn't need to worry, she had taught him everything he knew. He managed her business in an exemplary and honest manner, and she promised to take care of him. "You are a good man, a good employee," she told him. "I just think that you should take care of my children, especially Ryan. He wants to be an entrepreneur like his father was, but he needs someone to give him support and good advice. That's where you come in, my dear. Please help him." After making her request, the elderly woman asked the manager to leave and told him to let the next person in, but without telling them that their mother was still breathing. Feeling more relaxed, Sebastian left and made way for Ryan. When Ryan entered, he saw the elderly mother miraculously resurrected. He then let out a curse word and had a drop in blood pressure that led him to the floor. He even thought he was hallucinating, imagining things in that dark room. Miss Smith asked him not to be afraid and to calm down. She said she knew that Rihanna was very intelligent but lacked the necessary confidence. "Don't worry about it. You'll become more experienced with time, and Sebastian will always help you," she said. "I just want you to take care of your sister Raquel. You know how beautiful and enthusiastic she is, but she's also very cold. She just wants to have fun and go shopping." Sebastian even stuttered. The elderly woman confirmed that she was indeed hearing everything. She said that she didn't think it was exactly right what she had done, but that she needed to be sure of some things before her time on this earth truly ran out. She said that if Bixa didn't need to worry, she had taught him everything he knew, he managed her business in an exemplary and honest way, and she promised to take care of him. "You are a good man, a good employee," she said to him. "I just think that you take care of my children, especially Ryan. He wants to be an entrepreneur like his father was, but he needs someone to give him support and good advice. That's where you come in, my dear. Please help him." After making her request, the elderly woman asked the manager to leave and tell the next person to come in, but without telling them that her mother was still breathing. Feeling more at ease, Sebastian left and Ryan came in. When the young man entered, he saw the elderly mother miraculously resurrect, and then he swore and had a drop in blood pressure that brought him to the ground. He even thought he was hallucinating, imagining things in that dark room. Mrs. Smith asked him not to be afraid and to calm down. She said she knew that Rihanna was very intelligent, but she didn't have the necessary confidence. "Don't worry about it, you will become more experienced with time, and Sebastian will always help you," said the mother. "I just want you to take care of your sister Raquel. You know how beautiful and enthusiastic she is, but she's very cold. She just wants to have fun and go shopping." Mrs. Smith continued to help each of her children see the true side of life and wake up to reality. Raquel asked what he was doing there for so long, but didn't wait for an answer and went into the room. Mrs. Helena Smith had also prepared some words for her daughter, whom she also believed was a good person but needed a wake-up call from life, just like in previous visits. As usual, the elderly woman first encouraged her daughter and then asked her to take care of her younger brother. "You are smarter than you think. Believe me, you will surely succeed in life. Believe in your potential and never leave your family aside. You are all stronger together and much weaker in defense when separated," she said before dismissing her daughter. The youngest son was the last to enter, and by then he had understood what his mother's plan was. When everyone started entering and leaving the room with a suspicious expression on their faces, he realized that this death was just a setup. "I knew you would be able to figure it out, and that's because you're the youngest," Mrs. Smith said. Unfortunately, she had paid little attention to Ronnie's upbringing as he was the youngest, and he had learned many things from his siblings directly, not from her or Peter. Perhaps that was why he had become so independent and effective spiritually. "But now it's time to settle down, son, and think about your family," said Mrs. Helena. "That's why I'm asking you to take care of your brother and sister, and don't forget about Sebastian because he is trustworthy and a good man. He may also need help or a true friend at any time." At that moment, the lady was crying very emotionally about everything that was happening. The door opened, and all the siblings and also the farm manager promised not to disappoint their mother and hugged her all at once, forming a large group in the room around the elderly woman. When all the family members saw each other together again in the living room, the atmosphere was much calmer and peaceful after that frank and emotional conversation with their mother. The siblings no longer felt the need to think or worry about which pieces of the family's wealth each of them would get in the future. In the end, the money belonged to all of them, and the time would come for them to enjoy it as they wished. But at that moment, it had not yet come, and it would be better if each of them learned to be a better person before worrying about having more money or resources. After all, family is for life, and character cannot be bought overnight. But the surprises of the day were not over yet. Rosa appeared with a huge white cake. It wasn't anyone's birthday, so why the celebration? Rosa explained that they were now going to celebrate the miraculous resurrection of Helena and wish her many years of life. This was a wish that everyone there had, along with the promise to take care of each other. It had been years since those three siblings had felt like part of a big happy family. None of them remembered ever having a conversation like that with their mother or celebrating a meal with her by their side. Probably, if Mrs. Helena hadn't really died, they wouldn't have reconciled and thought more about the direction of their lives. It was a clever strategy, but the excellent result. Peter, her deceased husband, was surely looking with approval upon them at that moment. If you liked the story, please leave a like. We are producing another video now that will probably move you as well. Thank you for watching and see you at the next meeting here on the Special Stories Historyflix channel.